Doing another solar video, and this time I want to focus on people understanding the solar numbers. What do they mean? What is it all about? Okay, and I'm gonna start with showing you the MT50. The MT50 is simply a little monitor that'll tell you, what you are, what your numbers are. I'm currently running those charge controllers, which are MPPT. Um, but basically, what are you looking at there? Okay, so we're looking at the first thing. You see a 20, all right? That is 20 volts. That is basically the solar panel's highest voltage. And right now, that solar panel is sending to the battery 2 amps. Okay, 2 amps of power because the batteries are full. The batteries are 14.5, which means that they are full and they're about to hit float mode really soon. Now, if you notice, the solar panel is sending 2.1 amps, but what's going into the battery is 2.9. So, why am I getting more power into the battery than is what's being generated? And it's because these charge controllers have a function called the MPPT function, which means maximum power point tracking. So what it does is the extra voltage that I have, you see, because what happens is the solar panels, they always run at a higher voltage. So what happens is the MPPT charge controller brings it down to about 14.6 so it doesn't cook the batteries. All right, anything higher than 14.6, 14.8 will do damage to the batteries. That's why you can't put a solar panel straight to a battery because you'll mess it up. So, okay, so the solar panels right now are at 19.9. They're putting out 2.0 amps. The batteries are at fully charged 14.6, and 2.8 amps is still going into the battery. So the battery's not 100%. The battery's like maybe at 98%. All right. Now, what's interesting is when you have the solar panel number or the voltage high, that means that basically hardly anything is coming into the battery. You see, because what happens is as the battery gets full, the solar panel goes to its nominal voltage. Nominal meaning that's the solar panel voltage without any load on it. All right. So, if the batteries were kind of empty, this number here, you would see would be down to 15 or 16, and the amperage underneath would be very high. So it would be a lower voltage and a whole bunch of amps, as much as possible, that can go into the battery. And since this is an MPPT charge controller, the amps on here will always be higher. I mean, lower than the amps here because the extra voltage is boosted up and you get more amps out of it. Okay, that's what those numbers mean. Okay, that's what those numbers mean. Um, it is a little bit confusing sometimes. Let me come over here to the studio. I mean, to my bedroom system. All right, this is the same thing. This is the same charge controller. The only difference is this one doesn't have the MPPT. I mean, the MT50, little square box I was showing you. But it's the same thing. You have the battery. You have the solar panel. And on this one in particular, PV means photovoltaic, 28 volts. You see this because the two solar panels that I have on the roof for this one are actually a lot bigger. They're each 240, I believe, 240 watt panels. So the voltages on these are going to be higher, but it's the same thing. This charge controller will handle that 28 volts and it will bring it down to a usable level, 14.7. See, this one is at 14.6 volts. Pretty soon, what'll happen, it'll stay at 14.6 and then boom, it'll drop to 13.8, which means 13.8 means float voltage. Float voltage means that the battery's already full. It doesn't want to continue to be receiving 14.6 because that's too high, and then it settles at 13.8, which basically your battery really isn't charging. It's just like staying totally full. Then the moment the sun comes down, the batteries will drop to 12.7. All right, so don't get that confused. During the day and during the night, it's two different things. During the day, right now, okay, so let's say, for example, let me go back. Let me go back to the living room system. Remove this chair, because I think it's important. Okay, all right, let's go here. Right now, what you're seeing there is basically the batteries finishing off. Now, what happens is nothing is really connected to the system right now other than the freezer. The freezer draws about 10 amps. Okay, I don't know if it's on right now or not, but it draws 10 amps. But this is at 14.5, 14.6, which means that I generate enough power to run the freezer and at the same time charge the batteries. So right now, based on the sun that we have available, okay, if I were to, let's say, turn on the TV, right, then the TV, the TV would be run directly from the solar panels because the batteries are already full. So that's what happens. So during the day, it's not that the batteries charge and recharge at the same time. It's not that. It seems that way, but it's not. It is that the batteries are full, so whatever current that is drawn gets redirected to wherever it's needed. All right. What people don't fail to understand about solar panels is you got to look at solar panels like a straw. All right. When the sun is out, imagine you got a big cup of soda on the roof. When the sun is out, that means that there's a lot of soda available. But if you're not thirsty, then that cup just stays there full. Now, when you're thirsty and you suck, then you're gonna be drinking the soda. The same thing happens with a solar panel. Solar panel has the sun available. The power is available, but it's not gonna get sucked or drawn unless you turn something on, like a fan or an appliance or whatnot. So batteries, when they're empty, the moment the sun comes out, the batteries start sucking energy, till they're full. You know, and once it's full, then you see gradually the voltage of the solar panel going back up to let's call it inactive level, and it'll reach like the highest voltage or whatever. Each solar panel, the voltages kind of vary. So some of them will settle at 21 volts. Others will be like 18. Like I know for a fact this array, because I have multiple arrays on the roof, but this array in particular, right here, usually will settle at 21. All right. This one over here on this side, this is a second array. That one settles, I believe, at 19 or 20. And I actually have various solar arrays, but I don't have an MT50 for each of them, which I really don't need it anyway. But right there, I know that, the solar panel is still sending a little bit of charge to the batteries, okay? And then you get a little smiley face, all right? So 14.5 is the voltage that the batteries are at right now. 2.8 is the current going into the battery. Okay. Now let's compare that to your car, because a lot of people, since people have cars, they can understand it a little better. Your battery is a 12-volt battery. It's at 12.6, 12.7. When you turn the starter on, that voltage drops down because the car's engine is sucking a lot of power. So it'll drop to like 12 or 11.9. The moment the car turns on, then the battery did its function. The voltage jumps up. It's kind of like a spring. It has like a resistance. So it goes down and boom, and it pops up when it's not pulling any more power. And then your alternator kicks in, and your alternator adds 14.4 volts to recharge what you used up. So in order to recharge a battery, the voltage that is going into the battery has to be higher than the battery. So if your battery is at 12.6, the charger will be like at 13.8, 14, all the way up to 14.4 or 14.6. That's how you know your alternator is working. Now, once your alternator turns off or you turn off your car, if you were to measure the battery, you would see it gradually dropping from 14, and then it would end up settling at 12.6, 12.7. With the exception of some batteries that are AGM, which are like the non-maintenance ones, those tend to settle like at 13, a little higher than normal. So, but they're still flooded lead acid. I mean, they're still lead acid batteries. So that's what the numbers mean. So you start off, all right? Let me just explain it real simply. You start off. If you take a solar panel and you connect, it has two cables. If you connect the positive and the negative, or short it out, you connect it to each other, and you take a measurement, that'll give you what they call the nominal voltage. It'll be about 28, 21 volts, all right? If it's like a 100-watt solar panel. It'll say it in the back. That means that is the voltage of the solar panel without anything being sucked out of it, all right? That's nominal. Once you hook it up to a solar system, the voltage goes down because there is something sucking power out of it. That something could be a fan, that something could be a TV, that something could be a battery, and it'll be sucking power. So the voltage of the solar panel went down from 20 all the way down to whatever number, 14, whatever. As the battery gets fuller, the voltage starts to rise. Similar to if I were pouring a jug of water into a cup. At the beginning, I'm pouring a lot of water to fill the cup, but once the cup is starting to fill, I ease back on the jug because I don't want the cup, to overfill. So I'm pouring less water. When I see it's at the brim, I turn the water off. So that's how solar panels work. They fill the batteries. Now, so if your batteries are totally full, right? That means that your batteries by themselves are not sucking any more power. And you look at your numbers and it says 13.8. That means they're in float. That means they're just there. They're not receiving energy, but they're not wasting energy. And if you turn on a fan and there's sun out, then that fan, that power that is no longer going into the batteries is redirected to, to your inverter where you have your fan plugged into. Yeah, and that's how it works. So during the day, when you have a solar system, as long as your batteries are totally charged, totally full, you can, pretty much, and the sun is out, you can pretty much run everything for free. Now, there is a caveat, and this is the part. If you don't have enough solar panels to do both things at the same time, let's say your batteries are charging and all of a sudden you turn on an appliance, what will happen is like you'll get all the power to the appliance, but then your batteries aren't receiving enough power to charge, which is a bad place you want to be in. So you want to make sure that you have enough solar panels to supply the demand. The demand is the batteries and whatever you're going to run. If you don't have a big solar array, right? Excuse me. If you don't, then the best bet is to give preference to the batteries. Let the batteries charge. Once you see they're charged, hey, you can use your stuff freely as long as the sun comes out, But ideally, what you want is to have an oversized system that can fill all your needs, that can charge your battery, that's providing enough power for your batteries to charge, as well as run whatever appliance you're running simultaneously, So that's how it works. So during the day, if you're, like I said, if your solar system is pretty big or decent size, doesn't have to be really big, but decent size, then you can do both things. You charge batteries and use it at the same time. Now, once 5, 6 o'clock comes along, when the sun comes down, there's no sun. So now all of the energy going into your appliances that you're using comes straight out of the batteries. So how long you're going to use that fan or that appliance depends on how much energy you stored in the battery. It's like water, During the day, if let's say it's raining and excuse me, You fill the barrel of water. Well, that barrel of water, let's say, has 50 gallons. That's what you have. You have 50 gallons, you know. If it's raining, then you can use the water, and whatever you're using is being replaced by new water, so you don't really have to worry about how much you use. Now, once it stops raining, then you know that all you have is 50 gallons of water, and if you waste that water, then you're shit out of luck. So that's how the whole electric thing works, you know, and that's why people have big battery banks, to have a lot of storage. Now, what happens is this: there has to be a balance to things. If you have very little batteries and too much solar panels, you'll recharge your battery too fast and it can damage it. And at the same time, at night you won't have enough battery storage because your battery is small. But if you make the battery bank too big, then there's the other problem is that we only get the sun for 4 to 6 hours per day. So if your battery bank is too big for the size of your solar panel, then you'll end up having half charged batteries, which will eventually sulfate the batteries and damage them. So there has to be a balance. It has to be a balance. The power that you're putting into the battery should be at least 10 to 15% of the size of your battery bank. So if you have a battery bank that can hold 400 amp hours, then you should be charging it at least at 40 amps. Okay, at least 40 amps, maybe a little more. I wouldn't really push it that much, but 40, 40, 45, that's pretty good. Even 50, you could do 50. It's not really going to be a problem, you know. Um, so you have to size it out. You know, you have to size it out. So if if you have to do the math, basically the math is very simple. Watts equals volts times amps. So if you take the volts and you multiply it by the amps, it'll give you the watts. That's all. That's the equation. So whatever you're trying to figure out. So if you want to figure out, how many watts is, a 400 amp um, battery bank, all you got to do is multiply the 400 amps times 12 volts, which the batteries are 12 volts, and that'll give you, how much it is. you know and then you can calculate, okay, well, the solar panels are going to roughly give me this much in 5 hours, so you know how much not to overspend in power. um with solar, you're not going to get these definite answers, and that was one mistake that I made in the beginning. I really wanted to like calculate the shit out of this, and I realized that things in the solar, with solar, are approximations, estimates. You don't know exactly how much sun you're going to get. You don't know exactly. So what you want to do, in my opinion, oversize a little bit. Have a little more than what you think you'd need, and I think you'd be pretty safe in that aspect. Um, there are days that become sunny. I mean, rainy, cloudy. All this week, it's been cloudy as hell. I know for a fact, since I live totally off grid, I know that the batteries, especially lead acid batteries, you do not want to go below 50% because you will destroy them, and you don't want to leave them uncharged for any long period of time because they will sulfate, and then you'll lose your investment. I make it a mission to have my batteries charged 100% every single day. Normally, when the sun is out, I don't even have to think about it because the sun takes care of it. But on cloudy days, when I look out the window 7, 8 in the morning and I see that there's some clouds, I turn the generator on and I use a regular car battery charger to charge my battery bank. Because I, to me, it's a priority. The batteries have to be charged. For their safety, for my use at night. Now, in my case, since I live in Puerto Rico, even when it's cloudy, we still get some substantial sun. So I usually run my generator on cloudy days for maybe 2 hours, 3 hours at most, and I'm just like kind of giving a break for the sun to come out. But if you have an off-grid solar system, you have to get a generator. You just have to. You're gonna need it. You know what I mean? Don't depend solely on the sun, because there are gonna be moments that you will need to give your batteries a little help. You know, who's that? Natural cycle. Good information. Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, overall, solar. My experience on living off grid is excellent. I don't have to worry about an electric bill. People, especially here in Puerto Rico, that the power company is so unreliable. I hear people complaining, "Oh, the power went out, my food went bad." I don't have that issue with solar. I did my solar by myself, DIY. It's a 12-volt system, so it's the simplest way, the simplest route you can go, and it works, guys. It works. It works. I mean, there are always more expensive options like lithium batteries and whatnot. And yeah, they're expensive too. Um, but if you want to go the cheapest route, lead acid batteries are available everywhere. They're good. Flooded lead acid battery technology has been around for more than 100 years. So, it's probably not the top of the line, but it works. That's the whole point. It works, and it's stable, and it works really well. You know, um, if you take care of these flooded lead acid batteries, people tell you that they'll last 5 to 6 years. I'm actually at that 5 to 6 year mark already, and I'm gonna tell you they are running totally strong. I have read in many places that a battery bank can last you up to 12 to 15 years. So I'm hoping mine does. I take really good care of it. I check it. I clean them. I make sure that nothing's ever overheating. I make sure that it gets charged every day fully. I make sure that it gets distilled water when needed. I check every single month religiously. I do not fail one month. You know, and I usually don't have to put much water into them, because the less you use them, like my battery bank is oversized. So even when I use my battery bank all night, I'm only using up like a good 30% of my system's capacity. 30%. And they say that the lesser you use it, the longer it will, the cycles. Every time you charge and recharge your batteries, it's called a cycle. And they recommend batteries like flooded lead acid batteries, they recommend not discharging them more than 50%. I discharge mine up to 30%, like I would say 90% of the time. I don't think I've ever gone below that. So that's probably why my batteries are in such good shape. And I'm expecting I'm expecting another 5 years out of them, honestly, based on the care that I've given them. But these things end up going bad eventually, and they lose capacity. But they're good. Lithiums are a lot more forgiving in the aspect of you can drain them down to 80%. Some people claim up to 100%, and it doesn't matter, and they'll last you 2-3 thousand cycles. That could be true, but the cost of lithium right now for me is too high, really too high. So, and it's not practical for me at the moment. Um, but what can I say? What can I say? My experience. People say don't have flooded lead acid batteries indoors. I have them indoors. I have the windows open. They're ventilated. I live right now. I'm at my dinner table, and my batteries are right there. Right in the living room, dead smack in the living room. My batteries right there. I mean, some people find that kind of crazy looking, but and in my bedroom, I got my other system with my two 8D batteries. And this is in my bedroom. I got my two 8D batteries, and I have had no problem with hydrogen, with gases or anything. But then again, my house is ventilated. We're not all closed up. I live on an island, so that probably helps. Because I'm an island boy. anyways, I hope this information helped you out. Because I know sometimes those little numbers are a little confusing. So, just to recap, a battery that is fully charged okay, is at 12.7. A battery that is connected to the solar system during the day will go up all the way to 14.6. Once a month, the battery system may go up to 14.8 because your charge controller might monthly do what they call an equalization charge, which is basically it overcharges it a little bit just to even out all of the cells on all of the batteries. So that usually happens once a month. But overall, you're going to see your batteries at 14.6, 14.7, and then all of a sudden they'll drop to 13.8. And that means they're on float charge. That means that they're totally charged. And the system is putting in a little trickle just to keep them charged. Once the sun goes down, they're going to drop to 12.7, 12.6, and that's when you're going to be using the batteries. So, and then the next day it's the same thing. So, undercharge 14.6, float 13.8, no sun at all, just at night. Your batteries are going to settle at 12.6, 12.7, which is a fully charged 12-volt battery. Okay. Let me see what else I can say. And once you see the battery, like when you have a load, it says 12.0, then you know you're approximately at 50%. So that's when you want to turn things off. That's when you want to turn things off. I usually do that. When I see that it says at 12.0, I turn all my loads off. And once you turn it off, you'll see it all of a sudden, it'll jump back up. So 12.0 is actually 12.2, which is 30%. So you're at there 30, 40%, so you're under safe levels. And so that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, if you have any questions about the little numbers and what they mean and whatnot, let me know. Each battery chemistry is a little bit different. Flooded lead acid battery is fully charged at 12.6, 12.7. AGMs tend to run a little higher, 13.0. Lithiums have another thing. There might be like 13.0 to 13.2, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not too familiar with the lithium. But each battery chemistry has a little bit different thing. And to those purists, there is something out there that if you want to research it called the Edison batteries. Edison batteries are made out of, I forgot what, I think it's like nickel and carbon or something like that. And they'll last more than 100 years. People actually buy them. They're not as dense as these lithium batteries. You can't draw like really high amperages. But if you want to have a battery bank that's going to last you more than 100 years and you have the money, get yourself those Edison batteries. And you won't ever have to buy batteries again. Edison batteries. So, or lithium, go to lithium, lasts you about 10 years, but Edison is like the forever battery. All right, guys, take care. God bless. I hope you like this video. And if you like these informative videos, want to make a little donation to the channel, my PayPal link will be in the description below. Any amount goes towards, doing these things and doing these videos and, making more off-grid stuff. So take care, guys, and God bless.